Hey everybody, it's mid-October, the nights are getting cold, we're starting to get frost, so it's time for us to get the garden cleaned up. So our garden did really well this year. We had kind of a rough start. We had a lot of rain. The weather was a little bit weird this year. I don't know if any of you had that problem, but things started really kicking in late in the season for us. Our tomatoes especially were kind of late, but when they did come in, they went crazy. So we're at the point now with frost warnings that we have to get our tomatoes picked, whether they're red or green. We need to get our peppers that are in pots moved into our greenhouse and any other potted items that we want to extend the season on. And we have other garden bed work to do. As we get the beds cleaned out, we'll be able to get them composted and ready to go to sleep for this winter. For anybody who has followed along with us over the last few years, you know that we use these cattle panel as trellis in our garden. And this year we did both pole beans, some to pick and eat, some to do for seed saving. And we tried something different this year on these trellises. We took some of our indeterminate tomatoes and we decided to plant those right at the edge of the bottom of the trellis and see how they would do, and see if we could wind them through the trellis and get them to come up and over. And I actually have one way up at the top up here that has done that. So that was a success this year and something I'm sure we'll do again next season. Here we have some cayenne and some super chili peppers that we planted in the ground. And these aren't going to be going in, so we'll be picking as many of these as we can. We haven't really decided if we want to try covering them for another week or two to see if we can get a few more peppers. But let me show you the ones we did just get all into the greenhouse. Temperatures today are not supposed to get out of the 50s. In the greenhouse, it's a lot warmer. So let's go in and I'll show you what we've brought into the greenhouse so far. So here in the greenhouse, we brought in a lot of our peppers. So here in our 10-gallon pots, we have serrano peppers, we have super chilies, we have cubanelles, and you can see some of these plants have quite a few peppers on them. That's why we wanted to bring these in. We also brought in our turmeric and some onions and some jalapenos. So we've got a lot here in the greenhouse, and our hope is that we're going to get at least another month, maybe two, out of these plants for this season. So let's get back in the garden and get some other things done. Well, it's almost lunchtime. We didn't want to bore you with the process of getting these picked, but we got through a couple more beds. We've got this old enamel pail full of tomatoes, both red and green. We've got another one that is half full of tomatoes. We've got a bunch of rhubarb. We got some peppers. And now we're going to take a break. We're going to go have some lunch, and then we'll get back to work in the garden. We have finished about half the beds, and we're going to take a break from pulling plants. As you can see, we still have more beds to go, but we're going to go back to the beds that we've got cleared out. We're going to get them covered with compost, like this rhubarb bed here in front of me, so that we have those completely finished for this season. So we have a compost pile where we put all our scraps, whether it's from the kitchen, the garden, any kind of vegetables, fruits come out here. The chickens love to dig through this, and they turn this pile of leaves and dirt and kitchen scraps into some actual awesome compost. And if I were to dig into this, it's nice black dirt. So what was just junk is now black gold for our gardens. So this compost pile is also where we can put sawdust from Steve's workshop. We can put the pine shavings, and chicken poop that we pull out of the chicken coop can go in here. And then once this is all broken down, we can take this, we can load it up, and we can use it to amend our gardens. And that lets us take the nutrients that came out of the garden along with a little bit of extra and get it right back into the garden for our next year's crop. Our beet and carrots in this bed got overrun by some volunteer tomatoes, so we're going to be getting those out of this bed before we move on to get out our carrots and our beets. So now it's time for us to finish cleaning out our beets and our carrots from this bed. Now we've been harvesting from this bed throughout the season, but we still have some left. So it's time for us to get these out so the bed is ready for us to amend. So if I pull out one, here's a good example of the size of carrots we got this year. We want to finish getting the carrots and beets pulled out so we can amend this bed and have it ready to go to sleep for the winter.
It's a beautiful day today. It's in the 80s, but we're expecting rain over the next few days and then temperatures down below 30s overnight this coming week. So it is time for us to get our sweet potatoes pulled. We've got a little over 30 feet of sweet potatoes planted in half of this bed, so it's about 2 foot by 30 foot. And we're going to get the fencing pulled out and then start cutting the vines and go from there.
So we just finished clearing out the garden. We still need to dig up the potatoes and clean it a little bit more, but we cut most of the vines out. And the reason we were as gentle as we were removing the vines is I'm going to be taking some of the tips from the vines and planting those in the house over winter. Those will be our starts for next year. The rest of these we're going to throw into the orchard and let the chickens have at them while they're out there pecking and scratching. They can have the leaves and whatever they want to eat. Whatever's left will go into our compost for next year.
The chickens are very happy with their greens, and now it's time for us to start digging potatoes. We're finishing up our last 4 beds. Right now, the focus is getting the potatoes out of these beds that are left, and then we can get some compost on them and finish it up for the year. So we ended up getting about another 10 pounds or so of potatoes out as we did our final cleaning on the beds, and that finishes. We also grabbed out our cabbage. We left the couple of pepper plants that were there. They still haven't died from the frost, so we're just going to leave those and see how they do. But the rest of the gardens are done. Well, our garden cleanup is done for 2024. Our gardens have all been amended and are ready to overwinter for next spring when we can start all over again. So until next time, everybody, take care.